Welcome to Grandma's Verdict, and we invite you to watch a video with our new original story. Clara smiled as she listened to the symphony of birdsong. She loved to wander in the forest, especially in the early morning, when it seemed the birds were trying to sing everything all at once. She leaned against the trunk of a birch tree and set her basket at her feet. This is so nice. When Clara decided to move here from the city, all her acquaintances thought she was crazy. A young doctor who had barely had a chance to work beautiful, smart. And suddenly, a desire to move to some remote wilderness to study herbs. And how could you study herbs in a small town? There were no institutes, no professors. Clara just smiled. She couldn't very well explain to everyone that she wasn't going to be studying herbs, but using them. About a year and a half ago, in this very house she was planning to move into, Clara had found a book. A huge old book, handwritten in ink. This house had been left to her in her grandmother's will, whom she had seen very rarely. Her grandmother was her father's mother, and her father had been gone for a long time. Her mother hadn't forbidden them from communicating, but she hadn't forced her to visit her grandmother either. But even from their rare meetings, Clara remembered her as a kind, joyful woman who always smelled deliciously of flowers. 5 years ago, her mother had remarried and moved to distant Alaska. They had urged Clara to go with them, but she had refused. Flipping through the book, Clara realized that she had a real treasure in her hands. She was afraid of it, afraid of what was written in it, because when she opened the book, she seemed to become someone else. The girl sighed. Another day or two and that would be it. The good weather of the Indian summer would end, and the rains and the cold would begin. Today was the last time this year she had gone out for herbs. There were very few of them left, only those that gathered their strength in the autumn. Max! Clara called her dog, and immediately the bushes rustled. A huge dog stopped next to her. Its tongue was hanging out, and the dog was breathing heavily. She patted him on the ear, and the dog, as if propelled by a spring, began to jump around her. Okay, that's enough now. You're bouncing like a ball. That night a real storm began. The wind howled. The rain lashed down so hard that it seemed it would break the windows in the house. Clara even let Max inside so it wouldn't be so scary. But the dog didn't make her any braver, because with every gust of wind, he would press against her and whimper. By morning everything had calmed down. She went outside and sighed. There were broken branches in the yard. In one place the fence was leaning. The roof of the shed was torn up. There were so many things to do that she definitely wouldn't be bored. Max pricked up his ears and barked, looking somewhere through the fence. What is it? The dog paid no attention to her. He went closer to the fence, listened, and barked loudly. If Max heard some animals he would bark too, but not like that, but somehow differently. But now his bark was accompanied by a howl. Maybe some traveler? Clara quickly opened the gate. Max, let's go. The dog rushed ahead of her. She could barely keep up with him. Not far from the house, behind the bushes, Max stopped and began to bark as if he had gone mad. What on earth is it? Clara pushed the bushes apart and rushed forward. A woman was lying on the wet ground. Her clothes were dirty, and the stranger showed no signs of life. Clara quickly examined her. She was breathing, but she was ice cold. Apparently, the bad weather of the night had caught her here. Hey, can you hear me? The woman mumbled something unintelligible, and Clara realized that she would hardly be able to walk. She ran home for a blanket, rolled the woman onto it, and dragged her to the house. Max, when he understood what his mistress was doing, tried to help her with his teeth. They managed somehow. She took off the woman's wet clothes and wrapped her in a warm blanket. Strange, how did she end up here? There were bruises on her arms, as if from a rope or something. Clara saw that the rescued stranger had calmed down, was breathing more evenly, and seemed to have warmed up. The girl rinsed her clothes, hung them up, looked at the wet bag and opened it. Documents, some papers. Clara just took everything out to dry and returned to her guest. She was starting to run a fever, and it seemed that things were not very good because the fever was rising rapidly. Clara sat by her side all night, feeding her broth from a spoon, rubbing her down. And by morning, when she was completely exhausted, the woman felt a little better. Eleanor opened her eyes. "Who are you?" "I'm Clara. I found you in the woods not far from my house. And who else knows I'm here?" It was clear that the woman was terrified. "No one knows, don't worry. My house is almost in the forest, and the locals hardly ever visit me. What are you so afraid of?" The woman asked for a drink, then began to speak. "My husband died recently, not even a year has passed. We had our own business, but it was all in my husband's name. Not for any particular reason. He was a very good man, but it was just more convenient that way. No one expected it, no one thought about it. And we have a son. We didn't have children for a very long time. Then, when I was almost 40, I finally got pregnant. It was such a difficult pregnancy and a terrible birth. We almost lost him. And I myself spent 2 months in the hospital. But everything ended well. My husband and I doted on him. He was our boy, our own flesh and blood. When Victor grew up, it became clear that we had somehow spoiled him too much. He didn't listen, he talked back, he didn't want to study. And we kept hoping that it would pass, that it was just a transitional age. But it only got worse. My husband tried to talk to him, explained that you can't live like that, and in the end just blocked his son's credit card. You can't imagine what happened to Victor. He looked like anything but a human being. He started a fight with his father, and my husband's heart couldn't take it. The woman fell silent, then wiped a tear from her cheek. We were left alone. At first, Victor quieted down, he was mostly at home. I thought he was shaken by what he had done. I couldn't kick him out. He was my son after all. And when it was time for me to inherit, he became the same as before, although no much worse. He demanded that I transfer everything to his name. And at some point I realized that he could kill me. I didn't need anything anymore. I was scared. I threw the documents from my husband's safe into a bag, and had just managed to hide the bag on myself when my son came in. He was smiling, but his smile was not kind. It was the smile of a predator. "Mom, we haven't gone out together in so long. Let's go and have a coffee somewhere." And it was so strange to hear such words from Victor. I was confused, I agreed. Of course, he didn't take me to any cafe. We drove for a long time, and I already knew that this was the end for me. But Victor either took pity on me or decided not to get his hands dirty. He dropped me off in the forest, tied me to a tree and said, "Thank you. I know where all the documents are. So you don't have to worry. I'll manage perfectly well without you. You understand?" He left, but he didn't know that I had taken everything. And as soon as he finds out, he'll come back. He'll be looking for me and the documents. But I can't go to the police. He's my son. Clara thought for a moment. Yes, if such a person found his mother at her place, it was unknown how it all would end. She probably needed to turn to someone. The thought of the local gamekeeper immediately came to her mind. Clara, of course, tried to calm down because whenever she met him, she would always turn away so he wouldn't notice her blushing. And they had met in a very interesting way. Clara had been living here for a year. She had a secluded spot where she would go for a swim every morning. No one was ever there because the only access to this lake was from the forest. And then one day she came out of the water, naturally, without any clothes, and came face to face with a man in a khaki uniform and with a rifle on his shoulder. He was looking at her with an amused expression, and the girl didn't immediately realize that she was naked. Clara yelped and grabbed a towel. "What are you doing here?" The man raised an eyebrow. "Is this private property?" In short, the meeting was quite something, considering that the man was young, handsome, and in general. In short, Clara tried not to meet him again. But she knew from the villagers that everyone respected him, that he was a good man, that he would help. And they also said that he had a lot of opportunities. He was supposedly a former military man, and he had come here either after being wounded or after some other tragedy. Clara went to Eleanor. The guest was fast asleep. Well, after her decoctions, she wouldn't wake up for at least another 2 hours. The girl locked the door and said sternly to Max, "Guard." And she herself rushed to the gamekeeper's. His house was about 2 kilometers from the village. The man was surprised, but he didn't show it. He listened attentively and asked, "Is she there alone now with Max?" He nodded. "He's a good dog. Let's go, we'll sort it out on the spot." Clara was looking at Eleanor's documents, and Liam was talking to her. The guest was weak and didn't answer all the questions. Finally, the gamekeeper returned to Clara. "Yes, the story is not great, of course, and you need to think hard to understand what this brat is capable of. What are you looking at so intently? You take a look yourself. I think we can call the police now. We just need to tell her." They sat down next to Eleanor. The woman looked worried. "Did something happen? Is he here?" "No, he's not here. I called the police. But I asked you not to. He's my son." "He's not your son." The woman froze. "I don't understand you. Here, read this. We found it in the documents you took from your husband's safe. If we understand correctly, you didn't look at what you were taking, you just threw everything into the bag. There's a letter from your husband and some documents." The guest read and cried. Her husband told her that they had had a stillborn child. He knew perfectly well how much Eleanor was waiting for him, so he couldn't do otherwise. That day, another woman was giving birth in the maternity hospital. It was her 7th child, and her husband had left her. In short, she was going to leave him. This whole switcheroo didn't cost him much. The doctor was even pleased that he didn't have to bother with the paperwork for the refusal, and he earned some money at the same time. And at the end, her husband asked for forgiveness and attached the real papers. Eleanor put the letter down. "I blamed myself my whole life for not having that same warm feeling for my son in my soul. I loved him, but it always seemed to me that other mothers love their children more." There was a knock on the door. Everyone jumped. Max stood at attention and then he started barking. Liam opened the door. On the threshold stood a young man. His eyes were angry. His lips were pressed into a thin line. "My mother is with you. She's not herself. She needs treatment. She's expected at the hospital." Liam looked out. "Where's the doctor?" "What doctor?" "Well, the one who will accompany her to the hospital and can confirm the diagnosis." "And who are you to confirm anything to you? Let me take my mother and live in peace." "Unfortunately, I can't. The woman is in danger, and you are that danger to her." "What are you talking about?" "I'm telling you she's not herself. She has a persecution complex." Liam smirked and crossed his arms over his chest. "No, she just doesn't want to go anywhere with you." Victor's face contorted. "Out of my way." He tried to push Liam away, but then Max stood up to him. Victor stepped back, then slowly pulled out a pistol. "Well, that's it, you're in for it." And he aimed the weapon at Liam. Max jumped, a shot was fired, and immediately a dog's yelp. Clara screamed and rushed to Max. Liam knocked Victor down, and in the same second the yard was filled with people in uniform. Clara, Liam, and Eleanor were sitting in the corridor of a large and very expensive veterinary clinic. Eleanor was still weak, but she insisted that she would go with them. A man was standing nearby, looking at her reproachfully. It was their family doctor, and he was insisting on her immediate hospitalization. A man in a white coat came out to them. "What a retinue. Everything is fine. A couple of weeks, and your friend will be as good as new." It all worked out well. The wound was a through and through, so nothing vital was affected. He lost a lot of blood, of course, but we'll replenish that. Clara burst into tears. Apparently, the tension of the last couple of days had taken its toll. Liam hugged her and wiped her tears. "What's wrong? Everything will be fine." And Eleanor smiled faintly. Something told her that now everything would be fine for Clara, and there would be someone to fix the fence, and a shoulder to lean on. "Well, let's say our goodbyes." Clara stood up and hugged the woman. "Guys, if you don't mind, I'll visit you. After all, you saved me from certain death. Only God knows how it all could have ended. And now I have no one, it seems, but you. Of course, come and visit. We'll always be glad to see you. And bring that man with you, the one who worries about you more than you do yourself." Eleanor looked at the doctor and smiled. "Well, maybe I'll take your advice. We've known each other for 100 years. He's always given me a lot of compliments. A year later, Eleanor threw Clara and Liam a beautiful wedding, and as a gift, she paid for a small laboratory for Clara. If you enjoyed the story, please support me with a subscribe button. Your support is very important to me and my channel.